So November 5, our next first Monday. November 5 to me always means bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night in England, but there'll be other types of fireworks
the next day.
Yes, happening
as
here.
in the election.
And then there's the election on the 6th. So this is an important evening. If you're a lover of string music, this really is the program to come to. You have programmed, I think, two of the greatest string chamber music works, I think, in the entire repertoire. Do you want to start and maybe tell us a little bit about the Brahms?
Sure. There are two sextets by Brahms, one in B-flat major, opus 18, and one in G major, opus 36. 3 seasons ago, I think it was, I was able to put together a group that had significant representation from the Boston Symphony and, of course, from our own shop. Malcolm Lowe, the concertmaster of the Boston Symphony, who teaches here and who has happily played on this series over a great many years, decided that it would be fun to play a Brahms sextet. And that's what we did 3 years ago. We did the G major quintet. That left the other piece to be played, and the question was, when could we do it? And it took a little bit of a while to get everybody available for it, but we've got a group in between made up of Glenn Cherry and Julianne Lee, who's a violinist who also plays viola, and Blaise Desjardins, and all of the Dmitri Murat. All of those people, except for Paul and Malcolm, are alumni of the school. And they had such a good time playing together the other piece that I said we have to do this one. So the second half of this program is this so wonderful, so autumnal. I mean, November, I guess, is about as autumn as you're going to get. And it's a great, great piece. It's a big, expansive piece. It fills the second half of the program.
Well, of the 4 movements of the Brahms, do you have a particular favorite?
Not exactly, but if I wanted to link it into my idea of the element of where somebody comes from, I would say that the scherzo movement, it's a dance. I don't know who's dancing. Is it village people or whatever? I guess maybe I should also say that as a cellist, I love the set of variations that is the second movement that ends with this dirge with the first cello playing the melody. It's hard to pick a favorite movement. It's an absolute masterpiece from beginning to end.
Whenever I hear Brahms, be it in chamber music or in orchestral music, the sound that always comes to my ears is his understanding, his deep knowledge, and his love of strings. But he was a pianist. Where could that have come from? Is that through his relationship with Joachim? But there was a fundamental understanding of what, not only of the best string writing, but also what would interest a string player.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'll go to work on it. But he wrote 22 chamber works, including the sonatas, all involving string players at least, but a few winds, clarinet in some cases, and French horn. And he got I think he wanted to be a symphonic program and he wanted to be a symphonic composer, among other things. He was very much the idea that Beethoven was there and Mozart was there and Haydn was there, and he was very interested in where he came from. And he was also cautious, is that the word? Very, very serious about doing something well. He had a very high expectation from himself, which he would not bend on. And so before he could even write a symphony, he did 2 warming up exercises, which are serenades for strings, one without violins. I think there was something in his voice that really liked the lower string sounds too. He loved the viola. And So whether it's also Joseph Joachim, his very good friend, a greatest German violinist of the 19th century, that must be part of it as well.
In the first half of this program, you've juxtaposed Villa-Lobos with Debussy. Are these two totally different worlds? Are there connections between these two composers?
Well, Villa-Lobos is Brazilian, and among the pieces that he wrote most famously are called Bachianas Brasiliarianas. So he was interested in European music, but he was also interested in the folk music of his place. And he wrote this piece, the Mystical Sextet, for a very unusual combination of instruments with saxophone and harp and oboe and a few others. And it's not very long, but he was trying to capture some of that folk element. Debussy, I think anything Debussy touched was determined to be different, not because he felt it had to be, but that's who he was. That was his nature. And I'll tell you something I'll bet you don't know, is, do you know to whom the Debussy Quartet was dedicated?
I want to say Isaïe.
Give this man the prize. It was dedicated to Eugene Isaïe, great Belgian violinist, and for whom Debussy started to write a violin concerto.
I didn't know that.
And then Isaïe was no longer interested in Debussy's music because it had gone over the edge as far as, so that piece became nocturnes.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we've got in this concert is, in this Debussy quartet, which is a very standard piece, a very, very great masterpiece, is a group. This is a perfect example. Paul Katz, who's playing in the Brahms on that program, I said, what other ideas do you have? He said, you know, I used to play the Debussy quartet all the time in my years in the Cleveland quartet, and I'm hungry to play it again. Why can't we assemble a group of really wonderful young players, and we'll study it together and we'll do it that way? And that's exactly what happened.
Well, you've certainly done that. I mean, there's some of the finest young string players in the whole of NEC playing.
Well, and there they are. And so that's joyful for me. I mean, you mentioned before, I was lucky enough to play chamber music with Jascha Heifetz and my teacher, Gregor Pierogorski. I was just a young pup, and I mean, they took me in. And that idea that we have of conveying and continuing the tradition through that direct contact of making music is a very, very powerful way of teaching or of mentoring or passing along a tradition. And I was lucky enough to benefit from that when I was young, and we're still doing the same thing.
I was reading your liner note, if I can change the subject slightly, but it's relevant, about the Souvenir de Florence recording that you made with Heifetz and Pierogorski, and there's a line in it, I think I remember it correctly, where you say, following Heifetz was like trying to follow a moving target.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. But actually, in the middle of that performance in the slow movement, Heifetz got very upset with us because he felt we were trying to follow him. And he scolded us and said, don't try to follow me, you just play straight, and I'll do what I need to do. And so the slow movement, in which he plays rhapsodically and very free, was we were playing dum bum 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 bum, this accompaniment, which is supposed to be. Now, of course, when push comes to shove, there were moments when he did slow down where we obviously followed him, but we were trying slavishly, you know, sitting at the feet of the great, great master, trying to be obedient, and he basically said, just do what you're supposed to do, basically, and I'll do my job.